one of our
Mm.
most important things to do at the moment is to learn to connect to our higher selves or our souls, so that we can channel our own wisdom through and become authentic. We become powerful beings ourselves then. Otherwise, we are still searching outside of ourselves for that wisdom. And then that's kind of leaving the door open for anyone to come in and tell us who we are and what we're about. So we
Mm.
want to get back to our sovereignty, to reach this new earth place that I was taken to in this dream.
Yeah, yeah. So do you like the whole age of Aquarius and everything? Do you see that we're going into a new Earth, whatever it is, 5D or anything like that? Like,
I
yeah.
wouldn't be here otherwise, honestly. And
All
I know
right.
that there's a lot of others, right? There's a
Mm.
lot of us that have woken up to who we truly are authentically now. We're starting to get it. We're not taking no for an answer. We're driven by our souls and our passions. We're starting to understand it doesn't matter if we look like so-called fools, because the world is so chaotic out there anyway. So
Mm.
it's that chaoticness that's actually bringing us out to become our true selves as well.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like the last crazy 4 years, they've just,
Yeah.
woken people up, right? But I mean, the way I look at it is I think it's always been this crazy, but we're just starting to see it, right? We just haven't seen it. Like it's just so in your face now.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of, proof that there's definitely something happening, right?
Yeah.
I don't think many people could deny that something's going on down here at the moment.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
what do you see the new Earth as?
To me, it's not a location rather than I mean, yes, the location, the environment will end up dictating, coming into fruition as our outside reality, of course. But to me, it's an inside job. To me, it's
Yeah.
us starting to learn to actually acknowledge our feminine power, our intuition, our imagination, put it in its place, and also put our logic in its place, which is only seeking everything outside itself. Um, and then repeating everything, regurgitating everything. So we've got to put it in its place, rightful place. So when we start to find balance, that was one of the big deals that I came across when I went into a vision quest with that same elder. I actually got taken to what would be presented as the pineal gland. And so in the vision quest, I have so many stories, Campbell. So many stories. My life is one big, huge, crazy story. Anyway, um, but in this vision quest, we had to find a space. I actually followed a rabbit, which was actually the totem, the animal totem of the Cherokee Elder. Found my space, put my four rocks around my tent, set my tent up, and then you couldn't, I already was prepped with a diet. You had to have a diet for 28 days of no sugar, only specific fruits and vegetables in that, and no root vegetables whatsoever, because you want to have a vision quest. You want to leave and go
Right.
into,
Yeah.
the etheric world. So it's 28 days of this very, very strict diet. And I tell you what, it's really hard to find things out there with no sugar in it.
I know, right?
Even savory rice had sugar in it. I'm
I
like, what the
know,
frick?
man. Everything.
So any case, I ended up having first dream I had was of what we were going to eat. And I didn't know what we were going to eat as their first meal, because you go on that was a 3-day fast. Usually people go on a 5-day fast, but I had had enough after 3 days and started calling for her psychically, and she actually heard me and come and got me. So I love that. Anyway, and I had enough information anyway. God, 3 days without food.
I did 19, man.
Any case, I first dream I had was of what we were going to eat, and someone had already told me that we were going to eat dumplings, but I dreamt that we were going to eat noodles, and we actually did eat noodles, and then that was a setup for me to realize that the next dream was important. And the next dream that I had was literally showing me things beyond what the normal people would understand. So let me just tell you the story anyway. I saw two warring horses coming towards me, like a war happening, and the horses were representing the two hemispheres of my brain, left and right hemispheres. And as they were coming towards me fighting, I decided to escape, and I found a cave. And in front of the cave was an elder. And the elder wouldn't even ask a question. She saw that I was coming from a warring zone. You were not allowed to enter that pineal gland. You weren't allowed to enter the cave. So she just straight up was going to shoot me. As soon as I crossed that line and went into the cave, she got her bow and arrow and she went to shoot me. But another elder, I'm extremely protected in that respect because of what I'm bringing to the world. So another elder threw herself in front of the arrow and took the blow. So she actually killed her best friend. And she was like, grabbed my hand, and she was like predicting all of the things that I could do or she could do to get me out of there. And she found that no matter what would happen, I was still going to get through. So she's like, go then, because no matter what, I come crawling back. So in other words, I was one of the ones that was allowed to go through the pineal gland and enter into this other dimensional place, which is probably why I was born to a mum that could see things, see into other dimensions. So she was, she had this gift. She didn't like it and she shut it down. But when it came to me, I was curious. So my curiosity took me way further. So when I went through, I went up these stairs, through the cave, up these stairs, and all of a sudden I'm in an opening of like just green grass and bright colors, and wow, this is another reality. This isn't, I just saw it as another reality. And in front of me was a river, and it was just like a small stream river with a bridge going over it. So the bridge was representing the corpus callosum that ties the two hemispheres together. And I went on the bridge and I saw the water was flowing, and this little blonde boy came up to me. And as far as I'm concerned, he was a Pleiadian, or he was I don't know, he was my innocence or something to do with my higher self. I'm not really sure. But he's like, watch this. And he put his hand out towards the water, and then the water stilled. And I'm like, oh, you can make the water still? And he's like, yes, you can. And then he goes, watch this. And he lets the water flow. And these two massive fish are coming down the stream and they are dead. And I'm like, okay. He's like, watch this. And he puts his hand out, lets the water flow through, but he's controlling it. And then as the fish goes under the bridge, it came alive. The first one come alive. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. You can make something come alive. And he goes, yeah, but watch this one. The next one is decaying. Like it was completely decaying. He goes, watch this. And then all these kind of seaweedy things sprouted out of it, and it came alive into a different kind of a scenario. And what that was representing was the stories that we tell ourselves. If we can get to a point within our brains where we can find stillness, we can actually shift our reality. We can shift it like that. But we have to be able to control ourselves enough. If you can control your mind enough, you actually have this whole opening where everything exists and nothing exists at the same time. So you are the observer of your reality, can actually control the stories. You can change the stories. So I actually put this to practice because when I was like 27, I was actually, because I had a mind that was just nuts like everyone else. Like I was depressed, right? I was just, life is shit, blah, blah, blah. And this voice kept coming in my head saying, just think positive. Why not? And no one else knows what you're thinking. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay, I'm talking to myself. I'm going a little nuts here. And as I got closer to, my fiance at the time was driving to Akaroa, New Zealand, lots of beaches along the way, and he was a photographer. So he pulls over, just random beach, no car park or anything, just pulls over, jumps out, starts taking photographs. And the same voice went in my head, open the car door and dig. So I did, and I dug up a solid gold bracelet that was three
Ah,
inches into the ground. So they started to train me and teach me how to still my mind enough. And so yeah, this isn't all in
yeah.
chronological order, but we're getting there, right? So I had been trained, they had trained me in a certain aspect of how to control my mind. And then I lost myself again when I moved to Australia. There was stuff that I had to deal with that I hadn't dealt with. But when I had that vision, when I had that quest, and I ended up going into the pineal gland and I was told all of that. I decided to put it to practice. So I went camping at this really cool place called Kenilworth, and I went over the river and I just went, you know what? I'm just by myself. If I'm just going to try this, no one else, like they said, no one else knows what's going on in your head. And I had trained me enough to at least still my mind a little bit. So I went, I'm going to just say to myself, and what you've got to do is you've got to pick something that your logical mind will agree with. Because if your logical mind doesn't agree with it, you cannot manifest it. It has to be the whole of yourself, right? So I couldn't just turn around and go, oh, $1 million in front of me, because my logical mind had problems with abundance at that stage, especially. So I chose that I would be able to pick a four-leaf clover without looking. And I just walked. I honestly just sat down, closed my eyes, did not look. And then I stilled my mind, like they said, where all possibilities exist and nothing at the same time. And I just went, four-leaf clover, just honed on into it, picked this blade of grass, and it was a freaking four-leaf clover. And I'm like, you're kidding me. So we are creators of our own reality, right?
Mm,
We have so
totally.
much more power than
Mm,
it's just been hijacked. Like our imagination has been hijacked
yeah.
because we're looking outside of ourselves for someone to tell us. And yet our imagination actually holds codes and keys from past lives that our soul has gone on. There's this body's past life and it's DNA that it's holding, but you've also got a soul's past life as well. There's two that's working together here to come together as one.
Mm.
You've
Except
got
me. This is my first time around, apparently. I think you told
your
me that,
first
didn't
time
you? I think you did a reading of me. I think you were one of the two people told me
yeah.
like within like 2 days that I've never been here before. So I don't know.
Well,
It's a
and
very
that
strange place.
could be Parisha was trying to find, the Buffalo Heart straight from Pleiades. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, soul.
So
And there's a naivety that comes with that, because we don't know how to handle this freaking physical world. It drives us insane as well. Like I had to grow up in a way that, yeah,
yeah, it's a
so
crazy place,
interesting.
man. It's crazy. It's very
It's
confusing.
so funny. It's you got to see the funny side because otherwise you'll end up in their fear zone, right? You
Yeah,
got to see
yeah.
it
Oh,
as just
totally. Like
hilarious.
I think that's the big thing though, is it's just life, right? It's just life.
Yeah.
No one gets out alive, so you may as well enjoy yourself. It's just a little experience, right? So why let it stress you out? Like that's what I come from. And I mean stressing out like stops the creation process as well, doesn't it? Which is what,
Yeah.
the powers that want to
Anxiety.
be, they sort of suppress all this stuff and fill us with radiation and toxic food so we can't,
Yeah.
our minds are like,
And then we're just focused in on that as a problem, and it becomes the problem even more. Like
yeah,
I've seen somebody who's done that where they're like, I don't know how I got cancer, but I actually ate really, really healthy, and everything was so healthy. And how did that happen? Because she was so focused in on it
yeah,
that it
yeah,
ends
yeah.
up
She was eating
becoming part of your
healthy
reality.
to
Yeah.
not get cancer, which means she was always focused on cancer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Yeah.
what I mean by hijacking our imagination.
Mm.
Because we end up filtering, we're actually creating their reality. We're creating the reality they want.
Oh,
We're not
totally.
creating the
100%.
reality we want. Yeah.
100%. That's what education is. That's what the media is, movies, all this stuff.
Mm.
It's like the collective consciousness, right? Which creates the collective outside world, but we all have our own inside consciousness as well, where we can affect our world. So even if it is going crazy, we can still
Yes.
create a nice little serene path for ourselves and walk through it all.
Yes. Yeah, actually, that was one of the messages that came up this morning, and I knew it was going to come up. You actually brought it up. It was to do with they were talking about if a shaman or somebody, a high energy person or high frequency person is somebody who can control their mind even though it's not what their outside reality is showing up for them. So when their outside reality is going
Yeah.
into chaos, when they can control their mind, they have to have an acceptance of what's happening outside of them, for them to be able to control their mind. Because if you don't, if you fear it or anything, you're resisting it. So you push against it, and that means you're already fueling it, and you're depleting yourself of fuel too. So when you accept it, this is the way it is, but I'm going to control my mind to see from an observer point a higher and a better path, then you'll easily slip through the cracks because all possibilities are on the table, right? At
Mm.
any given
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. It's the double
Yeah.
slit experiment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like totally, like when you're focused on it, you turn it into matter, into particles.
Mm,
Like that's literally how we create, right? That's what
that's
we're
right.
doing.
Yeah.
Where focus goes, energy flows, and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
that's exactly what they told me this morning. It's so
Yeah,
funny that
yeah.
you're bringing that up. Yeah, exactly. So this is actually us learning the war. The so-called war is actually within our own minds. Once we become that, we're already stepped out of the matrix. We're stepped out of the program because it's like if you see a monster outside of you, right? If you see yourself as an equal to that monster's strength, then it's no longer a monster. It's just somebody that's annoying you. It's like, it's just
Yeah, good point.
you've got to start to see yourself as the source energy that really is residing within you. And what
Yeah.
is source energy, God itself, whatever you want to call it, the universe, I don't really care what you call it, multiverse, whatever. It is creation itself. And so when we decide within ourselves that we can see life through the eyes of that, then
Mm,
all possibilities are back on the table again. But
mm,
it's just that a lot of people are programmed, and the program is run through humanity for good reason, by the way, because we wanted to learn all about our logical mind. We wanted to learn all about this physical world. We wanted to learn how to play in a physical world. And
mm.
now we're learning to bring our souls alignment back in, or love of ourselves back in, and take that power back so that we can use it as a playground through the essence of source energy or love itself. So we can actually play in it and have fun.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's why it
yeah.
seems like everything's crumbling that's out of balance. It's just out of balance.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. People focus on the physical, on the outside world, like this is the problem instead of the inside world. So they're convinced
Yeah.
the outside world exists, and then
Yes.
they plan their inner world around that,
Yeah.
which
But
means
you
that,
you could
yeah,
get
they're
you could
focusing on what
get
is the
yes.
past, right? It's the past. The past is a teacher, not a prophet. Like it's there to teach us, not to foretell the future, because that's what. Because this is the thing: is everybody is always manifesting. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're always manifesting. The problem is that most people are just manifesting what they don't want, and they're going
Yes.
and they're doing it again and again and again and again
Yeah,
because
and
they're
through
thinking the
fear
same
and
thoughts.
anxiety is
Yeah,
actually having the resistance that's pulling it back into their story again, because that's what they're focused on. So
yeah,
they're only going to bring in what they're focused on.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
and you could create any community with, people that have good intentions, and I've seen it happen. Actually close to where Mulaney is. I've seen it happen where there's a group of a lot of people that came together and wanted to create something beautiful on the land, right? And create a new community. It was all freehold. Everything was there. But everyone was wanting to be the leader. It was still the same dynamics and I actually had a chat to some of the people, and I'm like, you've got to get your mindset first before
yeah.
you can create the community. Because if you go into a community with your unbalanced mind, you are still going to be in the same dodgy
Mm,
mess that you were, that you've just pulled tried to pull out of, because
Yeah.
your logical mind is like, well, I need to be seen, I need to be heard, I need to look like, I have to be the best. Instead, in the environment that I've been channeling through, like I channeled through the Pleiadians, Cyanians, and a little fella called Nova. Anyway, my channelings have been telling me that the community that we're going to be forming is, yes, some people will be guides, and then they will, and then they will pull back and learn to play and enjoy this world. They can't always be the leader, otherwise they're not enjoying everything. So one will pull back, and then another will come forward when it's necessary, and you all have your like parts to play, so that there's no actual so-called leaders. We are all that, and all the ones that play in it as well. But there is a stepping stone towards that. Like if we just flip right into that, then it could get a little bit, without people being clear-minded, it could be discombobulated. So there are stepping stones towards that, but the actual future that we're moving into is we're all our sovereign selves, leaders within our own rights, and the ones that enjoy this world, like have fun and let go and be silly buggers.
Not go crazy. I know. I mean, that's the thing. Like, clearly, not everyone's ready. Who knows if, I mean, I'm sure some people are ready, but
We're getting
most
there. We're
people not.
getting there.
Yeah, I think,
This
like,
is what
yeah,
this,
we're getting
yeah,
there.
this is the shadow work that's happening at the moment with a lot of us. And the light workers that are starting to awaken to the fact that who they are, the ones that have come from wherever, other dimensions and all that sort of space, who are awakening to the awareness of their power, they're going to awaken up others. And I've been foretold then it's like the witches, ones that hold codes. They'll be awoken into their power because they already hold the codes from the Atlantis Lemuria ages. So they have that connection to Mother Earth, and they'll start to, there's just so much more. Then they'll connect to the elementals, and there's some that have been born as humans as elementals as well now, to be able to bring through them and nature, spirit. There's so much
Maybe
more
like
that
Lord of the
will be
Rings again,
awoken.
but
Yeah.
without the orcs, right? Like all the wizard sort of elfy, all
Yeah.
the fairy
It's
tales,
all,
right? The stuff they tell us
yeah.
isn't true will come back, and the stuff they tell us is true never happened. So,
Yeah.
what a
Yeah.
strange world we live in, right?
Yeah, backwards. Everything's upside down and around the wrong way,
Inverted.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean,
There's a lot of
I
hidden
wonder if
stuff in
that's what a
fairy
pole
tales.
shift is like, because, you know, I think it looks like we might be living in a torus, right? A toroid field. And you can imagine if the energy is going out, or, when it for pole shift, then the energy starts going in. I mean, everything would be upside down, right? And topsy-turvy when the energy was wrong. I mean, that's what it feels like.
I,
Everything's
they
backwards.
showed, I did have an encounter because I think it was like 2014. I said I wanted to meet oneness and experience it. And they're like, well, you'll have to take something to do that. And I'm like, but I
Oh.
don't do that sort of stuff. You're like, because I already see, into other dimensions. I don't do that. Um, and it ended up 2 years later, I actually did do something hallucinogenic. And it took me on this journey, and it really feels like what humanity is going through now. But I had to completely 100% come into just supporting myself, learning to support and love who I am 100% without looking for anyone outside of myself
Mm,
to have add to that. It was just coming from me.
yeah, yeah.
Then I ended up get into the space where I'm like, okay, I've supported myself. And then I was taken out of my body and I become like my family. And the only way, because of all the minds and that I could embrace that, was to become the observer of it. So I kept becoming the observer of the observer, like the observer of the family, observer of the town, observer of the city, observer of the world, observer of this of the solar system. And it just kept going further and further out. And then all of a sudden, I was entering around the Taurus field, this big Taurus energy belt. And it was right at 220. You know what happened in 220? We won't mention that word. But we had. But what they showed me was at the center of this Taurus energy was just love itself, which was source energy, God itself going on a journey. split itself into trillions of different life forms to be able to
Mm.
experience lots of things. And as a
Yeah.
soul, you can go on all these lines through all these different life forces. But for humanity's actual consciousness, it showed me it coming out, and it was like all to do with the right hemisphere, the feminine hemisphere, the intuition and connection to source energy. That had to happen first. And that was Lemuria Atlantis kind of age group. And this is just one part of our history. This is what I was shown anyway. And then it came halfway out of the vortex up the donut. And
Yeah.
then it shifted from that to the logical mind.
No,
So
yeah,
everything
right.
to do with the masculine and the outside. So we've just gone through that. And we were entering into this vortex it was February the 28th, 2020. I literally saw Earth entering this vortex they call now the quickening. So we are going through this
Quickening.
space within this vortex, coming closer to the love of ourselves again. We
Right,
can
yeah.
only enter through that if we come to the love of ourselves. And then when we spit out the other end, we're going to create a whole other story, knowing what we've already learned from both sides, because we'll remember who we are.
Because yeah,
That
we'll
we're,
be
yeah,
integrated again, like whole brain.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
so cool. It
yeah,
was an
yeah. I mean
amazing
that's how
experience.
I see it too. I talk a lot about the sine wave, the up down, but that's really just a cross section of a toroid, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the DNA are all,
Yep,
swirls like
same shape.
that. And the same with you could just keep going out and out and out, and you'll keep seeing the same shapes coming back at you, or you go in and in and in and seeing the same shapes coming back at you as well. Everything has torus field that's living.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the
It was an interesting trip.
yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. So I mean, that's that story basically that we're all shards, if you want, of the creator, right? Of the one, and just
Yeah.
it, when there's just one, it can't experience anything, right? So it's got to, you know,
Split itself into
put
all, and
itself to experience
yeah,
anything. And
and
this
to
is the
have
thing.
physical bodies, right? That it's actually created to be able to experience all these different.
Hmm,
So you can imagine all the
worlds and
different
everything.
dimensions that are just on Earth, just through all the insects and the animals. And,
How many
if you
different
see through the eyes of a
experiences. Yeah.
frog, it'd be completely different through the eyes of a cat, through the eyes of so many vast friggin' portals of experiences that the soul can actually and like come into.
Hmm.
And then you've got all the space, right? As well, like everything else. But then it all comes back to me. It was so interesting in the end. I got sucked back into myself, but I still had the awareness of source energy. And I was walking down the street the next morning going, oh my God, I created all of this, even the lampposts. Like I was literally
Yeah.
feeling like, because I was only seeing through the eyes of source energy. My logical brain is still not clicked back into its, you're just a separated human in a
Hmm.
body or massive meat. It's not anything other than that. But that's meant to be that way, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to have the experiences that we're having, where we're walking and talking in a separated world from
Hmm.
each other,
Individualized. Yeah,
and
yeah.
have this incredible experience. But that also
Exactly.
gives us the opportunity to be able to change it too, right?
Well, that's what we're learning to do, I think. But that's also a
Yeah,
good point is like most people they don't experience they experience the same thing over and over and over and over every day, right? By doing the same thing. And I don't think that's what the whole point down here is. It's to be creative and be yourself and experience different things, create different
exactly.
things, right? Because I've
Exactly.
heard a lot that people talk about love being the highest power, but
Authenticity is higher than
authenticity,
that.
exactly, right? Like being yourself,
The
speaking the
true
truth,
self.
being
Yeah.
sovereign is a higher frequency, right?
Yes. And that's because you're an acceptance of
Mm.
all. So you're an acceptance of the emotions and the feelings, and that you're accepting everything as it happens. You're just an acceptance. But something that you're not really liking, you can shift easier than when you're in acceptance of it. Because if you're
Yeah,
in resistance, you can't. You're fighting
you're
against it. And
giving
so
it
you're
energy as
fueling it.
well. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
feeling it,
Yeah.
which is a big, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. The last 4 years, a lot of people have, woken up, shall we say, and but now I see a lot of people are just getting into the fear, right? Or they're trying to make the outside world change. They're sort of watching, the news or social media, which is basically the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
And getting upset about all this stuff and going, oh, that shouldn't happen and this. And oh my God, look at this person and that. And oh, they're going to do this to us again. And when you hear that all the time, right? Oh, they're
Mm.
going to have another lockdown. Oh, they're going to do this. They're going to release this. But nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
Um, but because all they're doing is creating that future again for
Yeah.
themselves, right? Which leads to
Yeah.
fear, which leads to guilt, and leads to
But they're losing people's interest because there's been too many, like actually box themselves in there because there's been too many crying wolves.
mm,
And so
yeah,
they keep on crying wolf, right? Then, hello, we're going to wake up to it sooner or later and stand up and go, you know what? You got to be put in your place. This is not right. This is definitely not where we want to go anymore, you know?
yeah. Well, I think that's what we're being shown, right? Is what's going on and what's always been going on, and we're just being
Mm.
given the chance to stand up, right, and say no. And then once we
Yeah.
do that en masse, then we'll be creating a different world en masse.
Yeah.
I think it's got to
Yeah.
do with creativity, right?
Yeah.
We've got to dream this new world that we want, right? We've got to spend time focused on what we want rather than
That's
what's
it.
already out
Yeah.
there. We've got to
And if you
yeah.
start focusing in on that, that's why I decided I'm going to do this new channel with the school and stuff because I'd love it if people start to focus in on what magical stuff they could bring into their world, how they can connect with Earth and listen to what she desires, so that we're actually in harmony when we start building and creating. Of course, she wants us to make things beautiful. Like even when I was with Parisha, she's like, clean up. Of course, Earth wants to make you to make it beautiful. She doesn't want you to live in a slobby world,
No, no, no.
And whatever feels comfortable for us is comfortable for her as well. We're all part of that. They literally show me sometimes that we're like neuron paths of Earth herself. So she actually filters through us. And when we're in disharmony, so is she in some respects. And so we're all
Mm,
coming back into alignment. I tell you what, they also, like my team's coming through a bit at the moment. And they're also saying when we're in alignment, we will also have the chance to actually be able to open up portals that will connect us back to Pleiades again. There was that when in the Atlantis Lemuria age, we could connect through the portals of ourselves, understanding who we are authentically in our soul's lineage, say people that have come from there. We can start to connect to Pleiades and have that environment if we want to ground it. We don't have to, but we can choose what we want to ground that's going to be good for everyone. So
mm.
there's all this other wisdom that's out there that we can acquire. Um, if you want to see it as an outside thing, it's all within us because it's our soul and
Yeah,
remembering, right?
yeah. Putting back together,
Interesting.
or remembering. No, yeah, putting back together, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what remembering means. So, but then there's a
Yeah.
whole concept that there is no time. So it's
Waking.
all I don't know. It gets very, very philosophical when you get into those topics, doesn't it?
How
But,
deep do we go
but
down that
yeah,
rabbit hole,
it's all
right?
there already, right? Like every, you know, different type of person you've ever been or want to be already exists. You've just got to put the focus on that
Yeah.
and bring it in, right? Like,
Yeah.
and this is again the main problem is people focusing on what they don't want,
Yeah.
and this whole. And you mentioned before that we should, you know, get whatever we want basically, or something like that. And I mean, that's another big thing. People don't think they're worthy
No.
of having an amazing life and living in the house they want to. You know, even
Yeah.
if that happens to be a luxury house on the beach, right, with sports cars. Like they're like, oh well, that's evil, or I don't deserve it, or something like this.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that's what whatever source, you know, God's spirit wants is all these different experiences. Doesn't
Yeah.
want everyone living
It
in the
does. Yeah. What
slums and
makes
like
you
being,
happy? And
yeah,
each and every one of us
exactly.
is going to feel happy in a different way. Some people are happy just with a small little cottage that they don't have to clean. Some people are happier
Mm.
with a bigger lodge and they're inviting people into it,
Yeah.
and they've got a community happening. Some people are going to be happy with, I don't know, wearing specific medals or gems or whatever because it makes them feel like they're more authentically themselves because of their soul's journey and where they've come from. There is no wrong or right here. And I think
Oh,
this is this is another program that's been poured over humanity. What's bad, what's good, la la la. Yeah,
Judgment, man.
living, just live, enjoy what makes you
Totally.
feel good, and stop judging each other for wanting something beautiful in this
Mm.
world. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
bringing beauty into the world. Stop judging it. How can we create that beautiful, awesome world? Like my house that I stepped into in the other world when I woke up, like I woke up in that other, well, I'll call it human potential reality. It was high up on a mountain, and like it was a beautiful place. It wasn't a crappy place. I'm not going to live in
Right.
a
Well,
place, right?
who's going to try and manifest a crappy place? But the thing is, people do it every day, right? But they do
Yeah.
it by focusing on what they don't want, which is exactly the same as focusing on what you do want,
Mm.
except just less fun, right?
Less fun, right? This is supposed to be a fun playground to play in. And the more
Mm.
that we make it fun, the more that we just ignore that monster over in the corner that's because they only have a hold on humanity because humanity doesn't feel good about themselves. They're
Mm.
fallen into guilt, victimization, fear, anger. They've fallen into those places that make them feel small.
Mm.
And then they think that everything outside of them has control of them, and so be it. So that's where they get that's how they become, and in control
Yeah.
of us. We
It's
literally
crazy,
allow it to
right?
happen.
Like people say, "Oh, it's fake news, fake news, fake news," and then they quote the news to you. It's weird because I mean, well, we just don't know what's real. And this is the thing. So why get stressed about it? I mean, we hear all these things, and I've traveled to America and Europe and other places all around Australia, and everything's been fine. Like all the people have been good. I've never been locked
You went
down or
everywhere,
trapped
didn't you?
anywhere, and of course things can happen, locally. But I mean, most of the stuff's just fear propaganda because nothing big ever happens, right? I think that their biggest power is that, like just that, the propaganda
Mm,
machine. I don't know that they've got that much,
no.
beyond that.
No.
Like
Well, the natural
seriously.
law of everything is, like you said, what we focus on is what we start to flow towards, we start to create it. And
Mm,
if the least resistance we have, the more we can create, the
mm,
more acceptance we have of ourselves. So that being the be all of how creation is created through our own observation and then focusing in on it, then they have no hold on us other than what attention we give them.
yeah, and
So,
that's the only reason they're still in control, if they are for some people, is
yeah,
because they let them be, right? That
yeah,
they submit. And
yeah.
okay, so I think that's what we're like. This is a whole conversation. Right? We're learning to stand on our own 2 feet and be sovereign
Yeah.
again because that's the only way out, right? The way out is in. Like you've got to understand that you're at least as powerful as anyone else, right?
Yes.
But also in your world, like your wants really come before anything, really. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to as far as being authentic. You've got to
Mm,
be your authentic self before, you can't help anyone if you don't know who you are, right?
that's right. Yeah. Because
So,
then you're just like leaning on them, grasping at them for them to, or belittling them so that you feel like you're something. It is all false.
that's all
You
crap.
know, that's
That's why
yeah.
all
And the
rich
more you wake
people
up,
have
you
the same
start those
things.
people stand out for you too, the more you wake up. Like when you wake up within that of yourself, somebody else who's a victim, if you've woken up to I'm no longer victim, they stand out like dog's balls. It's like
Oh,
I can't go near them because
totally.
I can feel that vibe and I know
Yeah.
that vibe because I was that vibe.
Mm,
And I don't want to be, and you know what's going to happen. There's going to be an attack sooner or later because a victim will always seek something to make it a victim again, right? So there has to be somebody is to be the perpetrator. And if you're not going to face off as the perpetrator, they'll create a story
mm.
and you'll be it.
Yeah.
So you're actually falling into a loop of perpetrator victim loop.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You got to be brave enough and authentic enough to walk away, right? And
Yeah, say
also
no.
to
Yeah,
let people walk their own path.
yeah, yeah.
That's
No,
another thing. I don't
no
think we have
judgment,
the right.
obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Don't judge them and say how they're wrong or they're bad or poor them. Like that's just their path. That's
It's
just
the
where they are.
story. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
also I've got around that by recognizing that, well, even those that are going to go down that deep dark hole of being controlled or whatever, still, it's still source energy wanting to go on a journey for one reason or another of experiencing that deep dark hole that they're going down. Because it's still source energy wanting to experience, right? We can't poo-poo that. They keep on showing me something like the darker that something goes, sometimes it's actually creating another platform for another reality to be birthed. And might be even more physical, more seemingly more controlled at the start of it, but it's actually going to eventually be infused with love eventually, because we're all source energy is love. And so
yeah,
it's creating other, like, it's almost like breaking through into other platforms or other realities.
yeah,
And it
yeah.
looks at the first look at it, it looks crazy and horrible and nasty, but really in the end, yeah, it's a bizarre
It's
kind
just a
of a story
journey,
that
isn't it?
they give me.
So, do you think that everyone is going to go to the same place, like as far as this new Earth, 5D, whatever we're calling it? Do you think everyone on Earth at the moment is going there at the same time now or
Mm.
soon,
Oh, I think that
whenever it
there's
happens?
waves. They show
Yeah,
me waves happening where certain groups will be awoken that was supposed to awaken. They're awoken by connection to their soul and guidance and that. So they're awoken that way. Then they, when they're awoken, become the guides for the next
for the
wave.
next wave. Yeah.
And then the next way, and there's bigger and bigger waves that are coming. And there's still going to be choice, because
Mm,
if you as a
that's what I
person
think.
chooses to
Mm,
not evolve or grow in this reality, in this life, then
then you can create
your next life
your
will
lower
still
level.
be caught. Yeah. But they showed me, it was really bizarre. They actually showed me someone who was caught in the controlled mechanism would actually could be born. Well, I saw them born as salamanders going back to the start of evolution. And it's
Wow.
really weird. Yeah, this is what they showed me. It was like, sorry, salamander, and they
They fail. They just failed,
but they
failed
didn't
and
fail.
failed. So they've got to
They've got
go back
another
and do it
boot start.
again.
Like they can start again, and they have to go through the awarenesses of different levels of awareness. So the
Mm,
more that we become aware, the more power that we start, or authenticity that we have, the more power we also have as being able to move through different dimensional spaces. So it's really interesting.
mm.
Those that are closest to source energy and just pure essence of love have a lot of different things that they could be born into next if they die. And then, so
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah,
humanity as a
yeah.
whole, though, is going into, from what I know, is that this is an evolutional breakthrough of going through the central point of that Taurus
The
and
Taurus.
energy, and then creating something. What do we want to create new now that we know that we don't have to follow just the logic anymore? Now that we're bringing in our imagination and intuition, our feminine power again,
Mm.
what can we create? Because the imagination is the starting point of the new, the new.
Yeah, yeah, of
So
creation.
you
Yeah, you've got to
can't create a
imagine it.
new without imagining it first, right?
Yeah, yeah, everything's
Um,
created twice, right? First in our
yeah.
mind and then in the physical world.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
pretty
interesting. Yeah.
exciting though, but we definitely that this lifetime is going to be a massive shifts. And there's purpose for many that have come here, right now. So that's why I know that this is going to be a massive shift. Otherwise, we wouldn't be born in the here and
Oh,
now
yeah.
with the awareness that we already have and
Yeah.
understanding and being able to have these chats, right?
Mm.
And
And the
the outside world is
population growing
starting to
so fast.
reflect that broadness of our imagination and so forth. It starts to reflect it in different ways.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
everyone's really got their own story that they're going through, and their own, that's their, from their observational point, their story that they're traveling, that they're moving through their life with. And it just depends on the actual maturity of the soul
Yeah.
as well as,
Or
but
immaturity.
yeah,
As in me. Yeah, it's
but
interesting.
there's
I got told
opportunity.
when I was like, I don't know, 15 maybe, like someone said, "Oh, you're going to see a big change in your lifetime." And I was like, "Really?"
Really?
Yeah, and yeah, I was kept wondering what that was till 2020. And they also said that that's why the population is going to keep growing so much, is because a lot of people want to get down here and see what's
Yes, yeah, that's what
part of
I
it,
was told
right?
as well. Yeah, they're like, oh my
Yeah,
God, we want a piece of that. We want to be
everyone
there.
wants
Well,
to be part of
that
this big change.
big
Yeah.
change happens, right? Well, I know when they taught me to center my mind, there was a moment where I woke up and went, oh my God, I got it. And it wasn't that no more negativity come towards me. It was that I knew how to get out of the negativity quicker. And the quicker you can get out of it, the more that you can go into it, if you get what I mean, and not be affected by it because
Hmm.
you can become
The
the observer or
judgmental
come back
part,
to
judging it
neutral.
as bad. It's just a happening, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we mean by controlling the mind is to be able
Mm,
to go into these like have this have your story like play out, but always be able to shift it if it starts to get a bit
mm,
because you don't need to like one of the examples was when I was flatting with some flatmates that I went, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I love you, but no, I can't live with you. And so, and so I just stood by myself and I just went, for the benefit of everyone, thank you for the lesson. I want this over now,
Yeah,
but for
yeah,
the
yeah.
benefit of everyone. And I wanted it to be for the benefit of everyone. I literally walked out of that room, didn't say anything to my flatmate, went to the dish, do the dishes. She walked up beside me and said, I'm going back to my husband. It was that quick. Like I
Ah,
just went, and that happened twice to me. So we do have this power to be able to shift our story if we really want to.
mm,
But what are we actually holding on to that's not allowing
it's
us to shift our story? I mean,
exactly.
sometimes we can get caught in a comfort zone and we stay there. And then, sometimes we're meant to be pushed out of it so that we can evolve. Because really, I know where I'm going, but to get there, I have to go out of my comfort zone to get there
Mm,
and face, off with my own shadow self of what's pulling me into just mediocrity
yeah, you
because I want to go
can't
beyond that.
experience something new if you don't change, right? For things to
Yeah,
change, things have to change. We have to
yeah,
become the person worthy of the experiences we want.
yeah,
We have to grow, right? So
yeah,
that's basically that's why people aren't where they want to be now, is because they don't believe they should be, right? They're not there mentally. So it's a mental game. It's an inside game for sure, man.
yeah, it
Yeah,
really
it
is.
really is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, we're coming up on an hour there. So that went quick, didn't it?
You go quick.
What's the name of your channel? Do you want
My channel's Bobby the Messenger, Bobbie, the Messenger. And my website is Codes to a New Reality.
Cool. All right. Well, I will put
Yeah,
the links below for everyone to go check out. And yeah, you'll have to let us know when you start your new channel and
new channel.
come back and we'll do an interview with telepathy.
Yeah,
We'll just sit
telepathy is
here
going to
like
be
making funny
telepathic games
faces.
and it's fun. It's going to be fun as well. Lots of fun things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think it is.
Different.
And these are all the weird and wonderful, well, what we're taught are the weird and wonderful things that are coming back, right? But it's
Yes.
actually just normal. We're just not used to it yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's the truth of ourselves. Yep.
Uh,
Cool. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Campbell.
No, thanks for coming on. Yeah, that was really cool. And like I said, yeah, we'll get you back when you got the new channel up and have a chat about all that sort of mind stuff.
More stories.
Superpowers. What's
I'll tell you some more stories.
yeah, tell me some more stories for sure. Awesome. All right. Well, have a good day and thanks for joining
Thanks.
us.
Okay.
Keep going.
I just gonna keep on stopping.
All right. I think, yeah, they're on to us. So I don't want us talking about this stuff.
That's right.